If you're planning a trip to Grand Canyon National Park and are trying to work out the best way to visit Grand Canyon National Park, then you will want to watch this entire episode because we're going to look at exactly how to visit Grand Canyon National Park like a pro. And I'm going to share my number one tip at the end. Hi, I'm James Ian, and I've written numerous guides and published several itineraries for Grand Canyon National Park. In this episode, I'm going to share with you my top 15 must-know tips for visiting Grand Canyon's South Rim. If you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe right now. If you're watching or listening somewhere else, follow my podcast to get the episodes as they come out. Grand Canyon National Park is one of those parks that seems easy. It's just a big ditch, as someone described it, after all. But it's actually not just a big ditch or especially easy to plan a trip to. By sharing my top tips for Grand Canyon National Park, I'm going to help you have the best trip possible. Following these tips will help you avoid common pitfalls and will help give you the peace of mind knowing that you are fully prepared and know exactly how to travel to Grand Canyon, Arizona. Be sure to stay to the end where I'll be sharing my number one tip. It's something that 90% of people who visit Grand Canyon National Park don't do. Let's get into it.
Welcome to National Parks Collecting with James Ian, the national park expert. He's here to help you have the best national parks trips ever. Get tips, discover hidden gems, and learn all you need to know. This is your path to collecting national parks experiences, memories, and maybe even a stamp or two.
Remember to stay to the end where I'll be sharing my number one tip that everybody should know. If you follow my first Grand Canyon planning trip, it might just make the difference between having fun and ending up being medevaced out. I can't stress this enough, but don't underestimate the summer heat. When visiting Grand Canyon National Park during the summer months, the intense heat can be more than just uncomfortable, especially at the bottom of the canyon, where temperatures can be really intense. It can be more than 20 degrees higher at the bottom of the canyon than at the rim. In fact, an average of 13 people die every year in the Grand Canyon, and many of those deaths are heat-related. So carry plenty of water with you to stay hydrated throughout the day. The dry desert air can dehydrate you much faster than you might expect, so keep drinking even if you don't feel thirsty. And eat lots of salty snacks to help replace the salt that you'll sweat out. If you're hiking below the rim, take electrolyte replacements. I use LMT electrolytes. There's a link in the notes below. And alongside hydration and electrolytes, make sure that you have sunscreen and a wide-brimmed hat to help cool you down. What's a tip that people from the lowlands need to know about visiting Grand Canyon National Park? When you visit the Grand Canyon, it's important to be mindful of the altitude. The South Rim sits at an altitude of about 7,000 feet, and the North Rim is almost 1,000 feet higher. This altitude can affect visitors who aren't accustomed to the higher altitudes. The main thing that you can do is to stay well hydrated. Eat snacks to maintain your energy level, and give yourself time to acclimate to prevent altitude sickness. So take it easy on your first day, especially if you plan to do any hiking or physical activity later in your trip. What's a tip for visiting the Grand Canyon that will help you enjoy and appreciate the canyon a whole lot more? I highly recommend that you visit multiple viewpoints. There are over 50 viewpoints scattered along the South Rim alone, each offering a unique view of the Grand Canyon's breathtaking landscape. There's the Yavapai Point that's really popular. There's lesser-known Shoshone Point that's kind of cool because not that many people go there. But every angle just gives you a fresh perspective. I highly recommend that you visit several and don't rush. Just sit down, take your time, take the shuttle, go for a drive, take a walk, and stop along each of the viewpoints and just kind of reflect and enjoy the scenery. And it will help you gain a better perspective of the whole canyon. What's a tip for the Grand Canyon that will help you appreciate the variety in the canyon that many people don't appreciate? Well, you should definitely see the canyon at different times of the day. Just seeing the canyon from different viewpoints will definitely give you different perspectives, But so does seeing the canyon at different times of the day. Both the sunrise and the sunset are incredibly beautiful. You can look in either direction along the canyon. The interplay of the light and the shadows just continually alter the appearance of the canyon. You can see different layers, different contours that you may have noticed before. So I really recommend seeing various viewpoints at different times of the day, and it'll help you appreciate the canyon's variety. What's a practical tip for getting around the Grand Canyon? When you visit the South Rim, I recommend that you fully utilize the free shuttle buses. Getting around most of the South Rim is extremely easy with the park's shuttle bus system, and they're completely free. They offer a really convenient way to explore the park without the hassle of parking and driving, and they can be especially helpful at the peak busy tourist season when parking spaces can be very rare and difficult to find. The shuttle routes connect most of the popular viewpoints and amenities, so you can just hop on and hop off as you please. Most of the routes run year-round, although there are a couple that are more limited in the non-peak season, and they don't run along the Desert View Drive, so that's one area of the South Rim that you do need to drive. But the rest of it throughout the village, along the other part of the rim to Hermit's Rest, even all the way down to Tusayan, if you wanted to stay just outside the park. Before we look at my other tips for visiting Grand Canyon National Park, if you're watching this on my @National Parks Collecting YouTube channel and you haven't already, please like and subscribe below. It really does help. What's a practical tip for the Grand Canyon? This might seem like a no-brainer if you're an experienced park planner, but if you're new to visiting the national parks, you need to be aware of the need to book accommodation well in advance. If you're planning to stay overnight inside the park, make your reservations as early as you possibly can. Accommodation options both inside the national park and just outside, Tusayan is the main gateway town, do sell out quickly, especially during the peak season. Lodging reservations inside the park can typically be made up to 13 months in advance. And if you're seeking a truly immersive, unique experience, you could consider staying at Phantom Ranch. This is at the bottom of the canyon. However, it's really important to keep in mind that reservations for Phantom Ranch are in extremely high demand. So they're actually allocated via a lottery system that is 15 months in advance. So you definitely need to plan well ahead for your trip to Grand Canyon. What's a practical tip for first-time visitors to Grand Canyon National Park? Well, I recommend that you stop at the Grand Canyon Visitors Center. Again, this is hardly revolutionary. Most people do, but I'm just going to put it out there. I think that the first stop that you make should be at the Grand Canyon Visitors Center. You'll find tons of information, including maps, but there's also exhibits, there's park publications that will enhance your understanding and enjoyment of the park. Of course, there's also park rangers on hand to answer questions and provide recommendations based on your specific interests and the time that you have available. It's also a great spot to watch the park's introductory film, which offers a concise overview of the canyon's natural and cultural history. What's a tip for Grand Canyon National Park if you want to go where most visitors don't go? Well, it's actually not that hard. The majority of visitors to the South Rim never venture below the rim, but I really recommend hiking below the rim if you can. I know that not everybody has the mobility for this, but if you do, descending below the rim of the Grand Canyon offers a completely different perspective from viewing it from above. There are three main trails. There's the Bright Angel Trail and the South Kaibab Trail. They're on the South Rim. And on the North Rim, there's the North Kaibab Trail, and each has its own advantage. The views from South Kaibab Trail are arguably the best. However, it's also the steepest trail, and it has no water. But if nothing else, try to make it to the well-named U'a Point. It's not too far below the rim, and the name is appropriate. The views are amazing. Bright Angel Trail, the other trail on the South Rim, is the most popular. The trailhead is in Grand Canyon Village. It's super convenient, and there are rest houses and there are water stations along the way. So it has the most amenities. You'll be able to get the most help, if anything. The North Kaibab Trail goes from the North Rim to the river. It's the longest and the hardest to get to. But if you're on the North Rim, totally worthwhile hiking at least part of it. Even a short hike below the rim can give you a taste of the canyon's immense depth and its grandeur. Just being surrounded by all of the walls all around you is so cool. You don't need to trek all the way to the bottom. To appreciate the canyon from within, just venturing even just a little way down gives you this new perspective and a sense of the canyon's scale. Remember, though, that going down is optional, going up is not. So hiking back is more challenging typically. So pace yourself, start early, particularly if you're in the summer. The National Park Service advises not hiking between the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. in summer. You can stay at the bottom. There are a couple of backcountry campgrounds, and there's Phantom Ranch, which has cabins and hiker dorms. So you can hike down in one day, stay overnight, and then hike back up the next day. What's a tip for visitors to Grand Canyon National Park who want to learn about the canyon? My tip is to hike the Trail of Time and visit the Yavapai Geology Museum. To truly appreciate the Grand Canyon, I think understanding its geological history is key. The Trail of Time is an interpretive walking trail that's 2.83 miles, technically, along the rim, and it has exhibits along the way that guide you through the canyon's 2 billion years of geological history, so it's super interesting. You can complement this hike or replace it if you're not a hiker with a stop at the Yavapai Geology Museum, where you can learn all about the forces that shaped this amazing natural wonder. The museum also has really large windows that offer one of the best indoor views of the Grand Canyon, making it a perfect place to learn and to gaze out at the same time. They have telescopes there that you can look in detail. You can even spot Phantom Ranch at the bottom of the canyon if you look very carefully from there. What's a tip for Grand Canyon South Rim for people who are staying a while and want a break from the canyon's views? Well, definitely spend some time exploring Grand Canyon Village and its historic buildings. Of course, the canyon is the main attraction for the national park, but there is lots to do at Grand Canyon Village at the South Rim. It's not only a hub for visitors, but it also is an historic site with buildings that date back to the early 20th century. Don't miss the iconic El Tovar Hotel. There's the rustic Bright Angel Lodge. When you're there, be sure to check out the famous geological fireplace. And there's the historic train depot. Other highlights are the Hopi House and the Kolb Studio. These structures offer a glimpse into the park's history and are, I think, an essential part of the Grand Canyon experience. Each building tells its own story, and you'll find that their charm and their history and knowing about them and seeing them just adds another layer to your visit to the national park. What's a way to get a different perspective from just Grand Canyon Village? If you want to experience a different part of the South Rim, then drive the road from Grand Canyon Village to Desert View. The Desert View Watchtower is located 25 miles east of Grand Canyon Village, and the drive between the two provides an opportunity to see several different viewpoints that offer different perspectives of the canyon. And then the watchtower itself is just a really kind of impressive structure designed by architect Mary Coulter, who did a lot of the buildings in the area, and features Native American artistry. From that vantage point, you can actually see the Colorado River as it makes a dramatic turn to the west, and you can even catch a glimpse of the Painted Desert in the distance. Note that you do need your own vehicle to get there. The shuttle does not go in that direction. And if you want to go to the top of the watchtower, there are 85 steps that you need to climb to get to the top. But even if you don't have that mobility, it's still worth going, and there's a few different viewpoints on the drive. Totally worth it. What's a tip for those who want to do something a little out of the ordinary? Well, it's one of the most iconic things to do, so I recommend, if you can, to take a mule ride. These sure-footed animals have been a part of the Grand Canyon's history for over a century now. There are different options for different skill levels, including a shorter trip through Ponderosa Pine Forest that leads you to a stunning lookout and viewpoint over the canyon. If you're not accustomed to riding, I think you'll really appreciate the shorter duration, as it can be quite a workout for your muscles that you don't typically use. I have a confession, I was aching after about half an hour, and I was very glad that the ride was relatively short. I'm including it as a tip here because it's a unique thing to do, but personally, once was definitely enough. So you decide if that's for you. It's unique, it's fun, but also it was kind of painful, to be honest. However, if you're used to riding, there are longer trips that go further into the canyon. In fact, they go all the way down to Phantom Ranch, where you can stay overnight. I will say that although this may seem an easier alternative to hiking. Because you are using different muscles to ride, if you're not used to riding, I think hiking down to the bottom of the canyon is much easier than riding a mule, but that's just me, because a half an hour was like, and for me. But anyway, definitely something different, definitely something unique. It's definitely a part of the Grand Canyon's history. So from that perspective, I recommend it. Something also just to be aware of is that there are size and weight restrictions, so always be sure to check before booking the activity. What's a tip for someone who wants to experience the canyon in a completely different way? My tip is, if you can, to ride the Colorado River through the canyon. If you have the time and an adventurous spirit and the mobility, taking a trip on the Colorado River is just an amazing, exhilarating, super fun way to experience the canyon from a completely different vantage point. The trips do typically take several days, and there is a mix of calm water and thrilling whitewater rapids. Most of the trips are for half the canyon, either the first half or the second half, and you hike either down or up the Bright Angel Trail in the middle. There are some options that will do the entire canyon. There are several different options in terms of what kind of watercraft you take. There are pretty large motorized rafts that will smooth out the rapids. You'll go through the canyon much more quickly, which means that you can get through the entire canyon in just a few days. There's also just regular whitewater rafts. You're doing the paddling, even in the calm sections. These typically will do half the canyon only because of the time it takes. And you can also go in a wooden dory, which is a small wooden boat, very similar to the one that the original explorers Powell went through. He was the first recorded person to go through the canyon. So that's super cool. That's my preferred option. The nice thing is too that a guide does most of the rowing and you're just bailing the water out of the boat when you go through the rapids. It is the roughest though, because you are feeling every single little bump in the rapids, but if you're into that, which I kind of am, then super fun. Whichever option you choose, I do recommend it if you can, because it does really give you a very different perspective on the canyon. What's the biggest tip that I can give people planning a trip to Grand Canyon National Park? So far today, we've looked at 13 tips. We have 2 more to go. Stay to the end to hear my top tip in just a moment, but first, my second last tip. You'll have seen by now that there's a lot that goes into planning a trip to Grand Canyon National Park. There's loads to see and do. The park is one of the most popular national parks in the entire country, so it can be crowded. Timing is key, yeah? It can be really difficult to know exactly what to do and when to do it. In fact, the number one thing that people ask me about is how to put everything together into an actual itinerary. They worry that they'll miss out on something. They worry that they'll be somewhere at the wrong time. Some of them are traveling with their whole family and stress about how to keep everybody happy. It can be overwhelming, but you don't have to do it alone, because to help with exactly this, I've created very detailed deluxe itineraries for Grand Canyon National Park for 1, 2, and 3 days to visit the South Rim. And I also created a 1 to 2 day basic itinerary for the North Rim that's a little simpler to visit. There's less to do, but just as great. They do all the heavy lifting for you. They're designed to help you maximize your time and to ensure that you don't miss any of the highlights or any of the hidden gems of the park. The South Rim itinerary is a deluxe itinerary, and the North Rim, which is smaller, has a more basic version. But both of them will ensure that you enjoy your trip without the stress of planning every detail yourself. So whether you're looking for an adventure, tranquility, or a bit of both, these guides offer a structured yet flexible approach to exploring the Grand Canyon. They start with a park overview, and then for each day there's a detailed breakdown of what to do with precise timings. In the deluxe itinerary, I've also included different options for different activity levels. Timings of each activity and how to get from one to the next are all included so that you can do it exactly as, or you can skip something if that particular activity doesn't appeal. They include driving directions, hiking trail descriptions and maps, tips, timings, warnings of things to watch out for and pay attention to, etc. By using one of these itineraries, you'll save time on planning and ensure that you don't miss out on the park's highlights. They give you all the information that you need in one spot so that you don't need to worry about stressing about how to put everything together that you want to do into a schedule that makes the most sense. With one of these itineraries in hand, you'll have more time to focus on the breathtaking views and less on the logistics of your trip. Just follow the link in the show notes below the video. Now, as promised, what's my number one tip for Grand Canyon National Park? 90% of the people who visit Grand Canyon National Park don't do this. But I highly recommend that you visit the North Rim too. While the South Rim is the most visited section of the park by far, the North Rim offers a more secluded and tranquil kind of experience. It's open seasonally only, from mid-May to mid-October, and the higher elevation results in cooler temperatures and lusher vegetation. The canyon is also wider at the North Rim than at the South Rim. The North Rim offers unique viewpoints, different trails, so it's totally worthwhile if you're looking to escape the crowds and experience a different side of the Grand Canyon. If you want help planning your trip, check the links in the description box below. There's a bunch of planning and booking resources that you can use to plan and book your trip, and keep watching my videos to get even more help so that you can have the best national parks vacation ever. And if you want to get notified about the next episode, subscribe and click below.